Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Speak On It. I'm your boy, R.W. Coolins. First and foremost, giving honor to the guy who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. How's everybody doing out there this morning? Got some good mornings coming in all morning already. Brian Hoodie, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate you. Thanks for everyone tuning in this morning. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific every Saturday morning. That's what we do here on the Speak On It show every Saturday morning. Yeah, 12 years, baby. Coming up on 12 years. We'll be celebrating that on the next show. We'll get into that a little bit later. Hey, but good morning, sis. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Well, 59 days, y'all. 59 days until we vote. 59 days. www.nass.org. Can I vote? National Association Secretary of State. www.nass.org. Can I vote? 59 days, y'all. 59 days till November 5th. Make sure your information is correct. Make sure you know what you're going in to do. I got some information about this voting thing that I want people to look at as well, but we're going to get into that a little later. But let's go on and get these slides out the way for some of y'all that have never seen the slides. Let's go ahead and put them up. www.nass.org. Can I vote? This is the website. You go in here, click on Can I vote? Next slide. Go in here where it says voter registration status with that big I, like the I in the middle of that circle there. You click on that. Next slide you'll get is voter registration. Click on your state. No matter what state you're in, it pop up. Click on your state. And the next thing is fill in your information. You just put in your last four of your social, or you can put in all your information as far as your driver's license number or anything like that. And all your information will show up. You need to make sure you're registered in the right way. Your address is correct. Make sure all your information is correct for voting, to make sure that when November 5th rolls around, that you can walk in there, do your due diligence and vote. Do what you're supposed to do as far as letting your voice be heard, and get on up out of there and go home and watch the results come in as time goes on. November 5th, 59 days. www.nass.org. Check on your thing early. Check on it early. Make sure you're registered in the right way, in the right manner. All your information is correct. Don't get there November 5th and realize that R.W. Coolin's been giving you this information for damn near a year, and you waited till the last minute and you get in there and you can't do what you went to do. That's not just for you. That's for everybody, family members and the like. Come on, y'all. We got to get into this. We got to get this going. Reggie P-Rowe, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate you. We got to make sure that we're registered to vote. And it shouldn't just be for this election. It should be for all elections. As I mentioned last week, we get kind of complicit and complacent when it comes to the 2-year elections that come around. Presidents every 4 years, every 2 years, we have Congress, senators, judges, all the other people under the ballot. So make sure you're registered in the right way, and make sure you get out there and let your voice be heard at the polls. You know, some of y'all, we got people out here saying, well, I'm not voting for either one because it's lesser two evils. Okay. Yes, maybe. But at the same time, don't complain later on when the person's in there that you didn't want to be in there, or you felt with the lesser of two evils and you didn't vote. And now you didn't let your voice be heard, but you want everybody else to hear your opinions about who's in the office. Let's get it right. So, yeah. Saturday morning, y'all. It's Saturday morning. We rolling with it. So we're going to change it up a little bit this morning. Change it up just a little bit, because we got some things we need to talk about. Let's go. I wanted to start off this morning with the senseless Georgia school shooting that happened this week. Now, I think we've become immune to these school shootings as they happen and what's happening in our schools. But I think with this one, and not to minimize the others, but for this one, for me, and I had to say for me, hit home a little differently, not just the fact that it was a school shooting, but the age of the shooter and the things that led up to the shooting from what we understand. Let's start off with this. And I want to do this in the right way, not for publicity, not for propaganda. I'm doing this for a reason, and I think you all get it once I do it. But I think sometimes when we have these school shootings, everything is so concentrated on the perpetrator that we don't concentrate on the victims. 2 14-year-olds and 2 teachers were killed in this, and 9 people injured. But I have today, this is one of the victims. His name is Mason Schermerhorn, 14 years old, autistic. And they said he left the classroom and was wandering around when he was killed. He was not in the classroom. He was killed out, walking around. They made it a point to say that he was autistic and he was, wandering when he was killed. The other 14-year-old, Christian Angulo, 14 years old. You see him celebrating his birthday there? One of the teachers, also football coach, Richard Aspinwheel, math teacher, if I recall correctly. Yes, both were math teachers. And also Christina Ermy, also a math teacher. Now, I put these pictures up today because I think it's very important that we recognize and put faces to the victims in these situations. Because I'm going to get into something here in a minute that we always see, that we always hear, and how narratives get twisted. But these are the 4 victims of this shooting, 4 victims that were killed in this senseless shooting by a 14-year-old in Georgia. Now, I don't know any of these 4 people. You don't have to know these 4 people to have some kind of compassion for them, for their families, what they're dealing with. There comes a time in our lives where we have to step back and reevaluate ourselves when situations like this happen. And I say reevaluate ourselves and how we respond and how we view these things, because there's a lot of times where we become immune to what's going on. And I think we're at that point here, not only as individuals, but as a country, where you have people that are running for president, vice president that says, get over it. You got people that don't want to speak up on gun safety, gun laws, but they're hell-bent on taking away your rights as far as voting, health care, all the things you can think about that they want to take away, but they never get to the point of actually discussing removing and taking away or putting in stricter gun laws. Colin Gray, 14 years old, Colt Gray is the young man's name, 14 years old. Colin Gray, who is the father, who bought his son an AR-15 style rifle as a gift after the 2 were questioned by law enforcement over alleged threats. So this parent, now y'all ride with me for a minute. This parent decided to buy his son, 14-year-old son, an AR-15 rifle, not just because, but after they were questioned by law enforcement about threats that he made about shooting up the school, so on and so forth. The 14-year-old suspect in the Appalachia High School shooting in Georgia appeared in court Friday for the first time after being charged with 4 counts of felony murder. His father, who authorities say provided the teen with a gun, made his court appearance minutes later to face charges that include second-degree murder. The teen, Colt Gray, will be prosecuted as an adult, but he will not face the death penalty because he is a minor, and instead will face a maximum penalty of life with or without the possibility of parole. He did not enter a plea Friday. He is being held without bond at the Gainesville Regional Youth Detention Center. His father, 54-year-old Colin Gray, appeared in court shortly after. He faces 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 8 counts of cruelty to children. Those charges carry a total of up to 180 years in prison. And Colin Gray had been arrested on charges of knowingly allowing his son to possess a weapon. That's what the charges are. But let's get into something that, when I say we get immune to this to a certain extent, and I want to put this up. This is Colt Gray, Colin Gray, and his mother, Marcy Gray. Let's just put it in simple terms. Their son is a murderer. Their son is a killer. These parents are accomplices to the murderer, which he carried out at his high school. Let's just cut the chase. Call it what it is. But the New York Post has an article that I found. And it starts off like this. And this is where I think we have to really step back for a minute and reevaluate what goes on in this country when it comes to white privilege. Georgia school shooting suspect Colt Gray's family, not white trash, are just regular people. That's the title of the article. Georgia school shooting suspect Colt Gray's family is not white trash. They are just regular people. Now, I'm not going to go through all the cases we've talked about on him, but I want you to think about the narrative that is being set with this title on this article compared to the titles we've seen about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. Not comparisons, facts. And this is how the article goes. The family of Georgia school shooting suspect Colt Gray is not white trash and are just regular people, relative of the teen's mother said Friday, amid reports that the boy was raised in a broken home. The perception that Gray, 14, comes from a low-income, uneducated family is simply not true, a maternal relative told the Post. In fact, most of the relatives of the teen's troubled mother are middle class with college degrees and good-paying jobs. We are not white trash. That's what everyone is saying about us, but we're not. We are just regular people, the relative who wish to remain anonymous told the Post. Stop right there. First of all, if you want to stand on it, they're not white trash, stand on not being anonymous. Let's go here. You don't have to be anonymous. Say what you got to say. If you feel that strongly about it, say what you got to say. You're defending murderers, but you want to stay anonymous. Let's continue. Colt Gray allegedly gunned down 2 classmates and 2 teachers at Appalachia High School on Wednesday morning. He's been charged with 4 counts of murder. Since the massacre, a distressing picture has emerged of Gray's home life. A former neighbor and landlord of the Grays told the Post the teenager came from a neglectful home that, according to police, was frequently visited by the state's Child Protective Services agency. The alleged school shooter's mother, Marcy Gray, who has a lengthy rap sheet with drug and domestic violence busts, is a bit of a black sheep on her side of the family, the relative explained. Unlike the rest of her kin, she got into the wrong crowd, dated some bad guys, and often got into trouble, the family said. There's no accountability in anything that has been said about this family up to this point. And here's the question that I have. And I'm not going to continue reading this, but the article just jumped out at me, and I wanted to bring that up because it just shows where this privilege comes into play, where they want to defend these people who are murderers of children and teachers, innocent children and teachers in a school where they go to learn. The father felt it was okay to buy this 14-year-old an AR-15. And I know there's a lot of people in this country who feel that a 14-year-old can be responsible with a gun. I said that feel, but you got to remember, a 14-year-old can't even get a license. A 14-year-old can't drink. There's a lot of things a 14-year-old can't do, but you decide to get them an AR-15, not just a gun, an AR-15. For what reason? And we have people defending them for their actions, and not the fact that they're defending them because of what he did. The fact that they're defending them because they're being identified as white trash. By who? And why? See, these are the things that we see in the United States of America where people want to put a blind eye to. You know, when we talk about, and like I said, I don't do comparisons, I do facts. But when we talk about the exonerated five, we still have people out here, to include the former president, saying that they were guilty, even though they've been found innocent in the court of law. And someone else came up and said they committed the crime. But they don't get the benefit of the doubt. Why? Because they don't have the complexion for the protection. Let's just call it what it is. And there's supposed to be some type of sympathy for this 14-year-old because they say he was in a neglected home and all these different narratives they want to put out there. But at the end of the day, he went into a school with an AR-15 that the parents gave him as a gift and shot innocent people because of his shortcomings in his life. Had nothing to do with the people in the school. It had to do with him and his family and his background and all the things you can think about. And when you give people a weapon of destruction like an AR-15 at 14 years old, I don't care if you're 14 or 54. When you have a destructional weapon of the AR-15 and the capabilities it has, you're up to no good from the beginning. Now, there's gun enthusiasts that'll be out there and say, well, guns don't kill people. People kill people. Oh, shut up. Shut up. At the end of the day, we've seen this too many times in this country and nothing's being done. If the government's not going to do it, then you need to do it in your home. What this father did not do, what this mother did not do. Say what you want. I don't call them white trash. Don't have to get into the name calling. What I will call them is irresponsible. Very irresponsible. And now, innocent people have lost their lives because they were irresponsible. They didn't raise their child correctly. They chose to give their child an AR-15 at 14 years old. But we can't get common sense gun laws, gun restrictions, and so on and so forth. This is where we're at. This is where we're at. And I hate to say it this way, but I'm going to say it. It ain't the first. It won't be the last. I may get some pushback on that, but I'm speaking facts. It's not the first. And probably won't be the last. Let's get into this. In the news. Something happened yesterday that I thought I would never see in my lifetime. Let me tell you something. When I seen this, let me give you a little backstory. When I was active duty, I applied for a job at the White House. And the Air Force at the time, we supported transportation, did transportation support for the vice president's office. I think it may still go on, but I'm talking about back in 2001, 2, something like that is when I applied. And I made it to the final round, but they selected somebody else, which was cool. It is what it is. But the vice president at the time was Dick Cheney. And I never met Dick Cheney, but I met a lot of his, his assistants and everything during the interview process. And when I came out of there, I said to myself, after I found I didn't get the job, the first thing we want to do is we want to say, it was racist because Dick Cheney, who he is, or whatever, because we've seen Dick Cheney over the years and how he carried himself and all the different things we can think about with Dick Cheney. But yesterday, let me say something. If somebody would have told me back in 2000, 2001, whatever the year it was, that Dick Cheney would come out of his mouth and support a Democrat, not only a Democrat, but a Asian, what is it? Kamala Harris, let's just call it what it is. I'm not going to get into nationality. Kamala Harris for president, I'd have called you a bold-faced lie. I would have called you a bold-faced lie. But I'd have been wrong. Russell Jenkins, good morning. Greetings and salutations to you. Deborah Harris, good morning. Appreciate your support. Yesterday, Liz Cheney, former Representative Liz Cheney, offered her endorsement of the Democratic presidential nominee early in the week. Former Vice President Dick Cheney announced Friday that he will cast his ballot for Vice President Kamala Harris this fall, confirming news that was first made public by his daughter, former Rep. Liz Cheney, earlier in the day. She was on some kind of interview and she mentioned it. And this is what Dick Cheney said. Well, let's start here. Both Cheneys are Republicans, and the elder served under President George W. Bush. The younger Cheney, who endorsed Harris earlier this week, is one of former President Donald Trump's most prominent conservative critics. And this is what Dick Cheney said. In our nation's 248-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump, Dick Cheney said in a statement. He tried to steal the last election using lies and violence to keep himself in power. After the voters have rejected him, he can never be trusted with power again. As citizens, we each have a duty to put country above partisanship to defend our Constitution. That is why I will be casting my vote for Vice President Kamala Harris, he added. Harris campaign chair Jen O'Malley Dillon said that the vice president was proud to have Cheney's support. He joins hundreds of Republicans who are backing the vice president and her patriotic vision. Whew. I cut it off there, y'all. I'm sorry. I got to unfold my paper. Patriotic vision of America over former President Trump, because as Vice President Cheney said, the very future of our republic is at stake in this election. In a Truth Social post Friday night, because he couldn't go without saying something, Trump bashed both Cheneys using the acronym for Republican in name only, which they call RINO. Only Dick Cheney is an irrelevant RINO, along with his daughter, who lost by the largest margin in the history of congressional races, he wrote. Liz Cheney was ousted in 2021 from her position. She lost to somebody in Wyoming and so on and so forth. I don't think a lot of people truly understand what this means in this campaign season. Now, there's a lot of people that don't like Dick Cheney. Let's just be real. Just be real. There's a lot of people that don't like Dick Cheney. It is what it is. However, Dick Cheney served a lot of years in politics. He understands the ins and outs of politics. Now, you may not agree with Dick Cheney. I didn't agree with Dick Cheney with the first war, second war in Iraq and all that. Didn't agree after 9/11. Didn't agree with everything that was being said and how it was being portrayed, the contracts he had with Halliburton and so on and so forth. But he's a politician. Let's just call it what it is. But for him to stand up and say that he's voted for Kamala Harris, it really, I think it's going to shake up a lot of things, but we shouldn't get comfortable. Continue to still get out there and push the people to vote. Deborah Harris, I thought Republicans cannot vote outside their party. No, ma'am, they can't. When you go in there, no matter how you're registered, when you go in there and you put your votes in, you can vote Republican all the way down the line as a Democrat, or you can vote Democrat all the way down the line as a Republican. There is only in the primaries is where it makes a difference. The Republican primary, only Republicans are supposed to vote. Democratic primaries, only Democrats are supposed to vote. Then you get your elected official to come up for the main voting. If I'm correct, if I'm off somewhere, somebody correct me, but I think that's the way it goes. In the primaries, if you're Republican, you only Republicans vote the Republican. Democrats can only vote the Democrat. But in the general elections, even though you register as a Republican or Democrat, you can vote however you choose. Okay, thank you. Oh, no, thank you. Thank you for the question, because maybe a lot of people didn't know that. So I'm glad I could help clear that up. Hopefully I was correct, but I think that's the way it goes. But a lot of people don't understand. I think we don't look at the gravity of what this is, because you hear a lot of people coming out and say they endorse this candidate, they endorse that candidate, but we're talking about Dick Cheney now. We're talking about Dick Cheney. Everybody knows how Dick Cheney is. So, in his past. Maybe as he's getting older and he's understanding his mortality and everything, maybe he's changed a little bit. I don't know. I'm just saying. But this is big, and which is why, if you notice, when Donald Trump responded to them endorsing Kamala Harris, he went on the attack mode. Didn't debunk anything that was said and didn't do anything like that. He just wants to attack. Republican in name only, such and such. It's not, as I said, it's not the Republican Party of your parents. It's not the Republican Party of Reagan. It's not the Republican Party of Bush. It's not that Republican Party anymore, which is what Dick Cheney said, which is why he's deciding to vote for Kamala Harris. That's where we're at. That's where we're at with that. So, also in the news, I had to bring this up because I've seen, let me start off with this. I was talking to some people, and I don't get into openly discussing politics with people unless they bring it up. And I try not to push back on a lot of things that they say that may be false, and that's my fault, because sometimes you got to stop them in their tracks. Now, if it's just bogus to the 10th power, yes. But at the time, I didn't push back on this because I didn't understand it. Frank Miller, tell it. Yeah, I'm trying, bro. I'm trying. But I didn't understand it at the time. But there's this narrative going around about what Kamala Harris is going to do with taxing unrealized stock gains. And the person I was talking to mentioned it, and then I seen it posted a couple times this week. So I want to touch on this for a minute. So here we go. This is the post that I found on, I think it was Facebook, that someone had posted. And it says, just one little example of unrealized capital gain. And it says, your mom purchased her home 40 years ago. She paid $50,000 for it, was all paid off, which is great because mom is living on a fixed income. It is now worth $500,000. Kamala, which I'm not, Vice President Harris wants her to pay 25% of that gain, even though she has no plans on selling her home. Now mom has to take out $112,500 loan on the home to pay the vice president's 25% unrealized capital gain. Mom can't afford that loan on her fixed income with rising inflation, so she loses the home she raised her family in and works so hard to pay off. But don't worry, a big corporation will come in and buy her home and rent it back to her. They said you'll own nothing and be happy. Do you now see how they will accomplish that? Drain your savings and tax you out of your home. Capital gains will also apply to your 401k, etc. Do a lot of thinking before you vote. Now, these are the things that we're going to see leading up in these next 59 days that people have been talking about. And when it was, like I said, when it was brought to my attention, I never understood what unrealized capital gain was. I didn't know anything about it, so I didn't push back on it. Now that I have the information I need, I can push back. So let me push back publicly rather than privately. Here we go. Now, this post has been floating around Facebook. I'm sure it's on Instagram. I'm sure it's all over the place. But it's saying that mom, who purchased a home 40 years ago, paid $50,000, worth now $500,000. Now she's going to have to pay 25% of that gain, even though she has no plans on selling the home and everything. Let me just give you facts here, because this is the kind of stuff that we have to talk about and we have to be aware of. And it says, Harris plans to tax unrealized stock gains, but only for people worth $100 million. Let me read that again so we all on the same page. Vice President Harris, if she becomes president, plans to tax unrealized stock gains, but only for people worth $100 million. Now, never in that statement that I just showed you did they say that mom was making $100 million or worth $100 million. So that right there tells you that this doesn't pertain to her in that sense. And her $50,000 home is now worth $500,000 is not in that bracket. The plan, first put forward by the Biden administration, has become a talking point for conservatives who have tried to use it to criticize Harris's economic plans. Vice President Kamala Harris's endorsement of a Biden administration plan that includes a tax on stock holdings that have grown in value has emerged in recent weeks as a talking point among conservative pundits and Trump supporters who argue it amounts to socialism or even communism. Under the current system, the federal government only taxes profits from stock investments, commonly known as capital gains, once a stock is sold. The plan, backed by Harris, would impose a levy on stock holdings as their value increases, whether they're cashed in or not. There is, however, a catch. The proposal backed by Harris would only apply to a narrow and very wealthy slice of the population, people whose net worth is at least $100 million. That's about 10,660 people in the United States, according to one estimate. Currently, no such tax exists, something that many advocates across the political spectrum, though mostly progressive-leaning ones, believe should be rectified. By most estimates, the top 1% has approximately 40% of their wealth tied up in unrealized capital gains. The lack of taxes on capital gains has been considered by some economists and tax experts as a loophole for the wealthy. So let's just stop there and look at this. This ain't talking about you. It ain't talking about me. I know we wish it was, but it's not. This is talking about big business like Walmart, Tesla with Elon Musk, all those people that got all that money that are not paying taxes on their businesses, that are able to use loopholes to not pay taxes, those that got the tax cuts from Donald Trump when he went into office, would put us in deficit in as far as our GDP. These are the people that are going to be affected by this unrealized stock gains. Not you, not me. Unless we hit the lotto or the lottery or Powerball or something like that, this don't pertain to us. So I think people need to get in and start reading and finding out exactly when they say these things or they post these things, what are they actually talking about? Because a lot of people will see unrealized tax gains and think, well, it don't pertain to me. Well, yeah, in most cases it don't. But let me give you the information so you can push back on those that think it does, just so they can try to sway your mindset against voting for this person or that person. That's what we do here on the Speak on the Show. These people pay no taxes. And it says, because taxes are imposed only when stocks are sold, the wealthy have deployed a strategy, popularly called buy, borrow, die, which involves buying assets and borrowing against the value of those assets to buy even more assets. This is a tax-free action, which allows for assets to be passed on to heirs who end up paying no taxes on the assets. Ultimately, over the lifetime of the ownership of a given asset, no tax is paid. That the tax will be applied only to the ultra wealthy and only to tradable assets, thus excluding real estate or shares in private startups, has done little to stymie conservative opposition to the plan. And some of the right have seized on it to argue that Harris would be bad for business. That's where we're at. Those are the things that we're looking at. And they said in here, and your buddy, some of y'all, Vivek Ramaswamy. When I said that right, but Vivek Ramaswamy, he's running for president. He was running for the Republican nomination. He brought up a few weeks ago, I started pointing out that Kamala Harris wants to tax unrealized capital gains. He wrote in his post on X, of course. The main objection I heard was she'll never actually do this. Now we're seeing it's one of her signature economic policy proposals. Ramaswamy's post was reposted by Elon Musk, of course, one of the wealthiest people in the world. Notably, watch this, Musk at one point planned to purchase X by borrowing against the value of his Tesla holdings before turning to a slightly more conventional loan from Wall Street banks to make the acquisition. So when Elon Musk was going to buy X, he was going to use his stock, what's in his stock options, to buy it. And they were like, wait a minute, if you buy it with that, you're not taxed on that. So he was looking for a loophole to do that. But how can you borrow against something that is not there? Unrealized taxes. Unrealized tax on stock gains is what Kamala Harris wants to do. The way Elon Musk was trying to go around that is that there is no tax on it. So he wouldn't have to pay tax on the money he used to purchase X. This is the loopholes that they're trying to use. They're trying to pull it in. So next time you see somebody talking about it's going to affect you, unless you're making $100 million or more, it's not going to affect you. It's not going to affect you. And I think we need to push that narrative out there when people start talking this gibberish and trying to make it seem like these people are doing all these different things to affect your income when it doesn't even affect you. But they put up mom who bought her house at $50,000 and now it's worth $500,000 and she's going to lose this and lose that. Pause. Pause. Ask them what their sources are. Ask them where they got the information. Because if they tell you they see it on Facebook, they'll tell you everything you need to know right there. That's why sometimes when we see these posts on Facebook, you need to do your research. Go back and do your research, because a lot of people repost things without understanding the intricacies of everything that's involved in what they're trying to tell you about. Rather than doing the research themselves, they're quick to hit share, repost, and everything like that without reading, without understanding. All because they may not like the person who's trying to implement it. Just like they put false narratives up about Donald Trump. They put false narratives, people probably putting false narratives up about me. I don't know. I don't look for them. But if you see it, let me know. Let me know. I ain't got no problem with it. Let me know. I know who I am, so I don't worry about it. But that's another conversation for another time. So let's go ahead and keep going, y'all. Let's keep rolling with this today. There's some things in life as a black man, let me just say as a black man, that don't shock me anymore. There's certain things that I see, certain things that I hear. I said a statement on here a couple weeks ago that said, I'm a paraphrase and I don't have it in front of me, but it basically said, stop asking Black people why everything is about race when you are the ones who made it about race. And you can't make this up. This is a picture of a high school in Utah. You see the two guys in front of the cheerleaders with the black face? This is what this is about. Two Utah high schoolers showed up wearing blackface to a school game, and this happened. The boys who showed up in blackface claimed they were simply showing school spirit. The boys who showed up in blackface claimed they were simply showing school spirit. In 2024, you'd think we wouldn't have to tell people blackface is just plain racist, but unfortunately, for two white students in Utah, they're learning the hard way. Parents of students at Pine Valley High School in Utah are rightfully outraged after two students were reportedly awarded. Watch this. Let me start over again because I want you to catch all this. Parents of students at Pine Valley High School in Utah are rightfully outraged after two students, these two right here in the front, were reportedly awarded a school spirit prize for their off-the-wall getup during a school football game. The theme of the Friday night game was blackout, referring to one of the school colors, maroon, silver, and black. Let me stop there for a minute. Normally, when you hear at these sporting events that it's going to be a white out, a black out, a green out, whatever they're going to do, it deals with you wearing that specific color. It ain't got nothing to do with putting on no blackface. It has nothing to do with you coming in there doing something outrageous like this. But they took it a step further and decided to come in blackface. The high school boys showed up and out for the game, dressed in black t-shirts, black shorts, black ski masks, and most notably, blackface. Yes, you read that correctly. What's even more shocking is it wasn't until several parents got involved that the school even saw an issue with it. One black parent, Edward Wright, said, instead of there being consequences in education given at the moment about how wrong it was celebrated. After winning their awards, the boys posed for a picture with the school's cheerleading team, which was even posted on the school website. Since then, the picture has been taken down. Let me continue reading this before I get into mine. Wright continued to say his issue isn't even with the young boys. Instead, the father said, an adult should have corrected them. You could have tapped these young men on the shoulder, whispered in their ear, and let these young men know the significance of this, said Wright. If my daughter is old enough to experience racism, your kid is old enough to learn about it. There is no way no one at the school failed to understand the racist significance of blackface. But Wright said, even if this was the case, that doesn't make it right. Ignorance has consequences. A spokesperson for Salt Lake City's NAACP branch wrote in response, "This is a time for education to the entire school and the cheer coach. We, the NAACP, ask that Superintendent Richard Holmes use the egregious act to educate his district about racism and blackface." That came from the NAACP. One time, and I'm going to digress here for a minute, but I wish one time some of our African American black leaders, black organizations would just come out and call it what it is. Let me read what he said again. "This is a time for education to the entire school and the cheer coach. We, the NAACP, ask that Superintendent Richard Holmes use this egregious act to educate his district about racism and blackface." How much more educating do we have to do? How many more times do we have to sit down and discuss this with people who don't want to hear it? How many times do we have to be apologetic to not the boys because it's not their fault, but the parents should have stepped in? Come on. These ain't kids. These are teenagers. They're in high school. If we're going to hold the 14-year-old accountable for going into school and shooting up a school, then we should hold them accountable for showing racism to the extent that they did at a damn football game. And stop making excuses for them and saying, let's have an education. Let's talk. You can't educate them because they're taking all the damn books out of school. How are you going to educate them when there's nothing to educate them with unless you sit down and talk to them? Let's be real. They're taking the books out of school that talks about racism, Jim Crow, all the things in the history of this country. But you, from the NAACP, wants to say we need to educate them. We need to talk the entire school, educate the entire school. No. You can't educate people without the books to educate them or the means to educate them because they're trying to take it all out of the schools. If you ask any of them kids right there in this picture, what DEI stands for, they probably couldn't tell you. And if you ask them why DEI was even put into place or why it had to be a thing or affirmative action was put into place, they couldn't tell you. Why? Because it's not taught. It's not educated to them at that level anymore. Because it's all being taken away. They see the freedoms they have. They could give a damn about the freedoms of somebody else and what happened in the past because they're not being educated on the past. The Weber County School District said in a statement, while our staff go through hours of training to prevent bullying, harassment, and create a safe environment for all students, we recognize that we must do more so every student feels safe and valued in our schools. They never mention the racism. Listen to what the statement from the school district said. While our staff go through hours of training to prevent bullying, harassment, and create a safe environment for all students, we recognize that we must do more so every student feels safe and valued in our school. Where is the direct correlation to this event that happened, that they got an award for school spirit for wearing blackface to a football game? It doesn't address it. It addresses bullying, harassment, and create a safe environment. It never brought up the fact of the racial statement that they made by coming to a football game and being awarded a prize by the teachers that are judging the school spirit. Anywhere in this statement, anywhere. We are committed to an ongoing process of improvement. This is something we have continuously done and we will continue to do to help our students feel safe. Call it what it is. Stop tap dancing around the shit and call it what it is. Racism. Symbolism of racism. Privilege to be able to come into the school just like that and nobody says, hold on, wait a minute. No, not today. We can't have this. Do you understand? Do you understand the significance of blackface and what you're doing and what you're portraying right now? How hard would it have been for somebody to pull them aside? It's not hard, but they chose not to. Why? Because they thought it was funny. Because it doesn't affect them. Everyone in that school who was at that football game should be held accountable for them being awarded for it and being able to walk in there looking like that. But they won't. And you know why they won't? Because no harm, no foul. Nobody got killed. Nobody got beat up. But they don't think about the long-term effect that any of the black students in that school may have from seeing that or being subjected to that. When you have a father that has to speak up as a black parent about what the school and how they feel short, there's an issue. There's an issue. It's crazy. John Chaney, if we don't go hard like our ancestors, we will go back. We are too polite. We are too polite. We are too accepting. We are too apologetic. We apologize. We have this tendency to apologize for shit they do to us. Come on. Ooh. Par for the course. And then a lot of people will say, well, come on, Colin. It's Utah. I don't give a damn if it's Mississippi. Racism is racism no matter where you're at. I don't care. And you shouldn't either. You shouldn't either. And let me digress for a minute. There was let me take this down for a minute. Let me talk to y'all. I tried to find it, but I couldn't download it. But if I find it again, I'm going to upload it because I watched it and I wanted to post it and I wanted to put it on here today to play it. But this is a prime example of what this person was talking about. There's a post on, I think it's on Instagram, where there's a white guy, probably around my age, and he started off with, why are you Gen Xers or something like that, so angry, so caught up with, and get caught up with the racism and all this stuff. And then this African-American female so eloquently broke it down. But her main gist of what she said was, and I want to paraphrase because I don't know exactly how she put it, but her statements were this: we went to school with you. We listened to the same music. We grew up on hip hop together in school. But you told us that you would not be like your parents, that inclusiveness would be there, equality would be there. You were going to be different than your parents because we grew up together. We like the same music. We like the same things growing up back in the 70s and 80s and all through high school and everything. He said, but you got into the boardrooms and did the same thing that your parents did. You got into political positions and do the same things that your parents did. You got in these positions of authority and are still doing the same things that your parents did, that you said and told us in our face when we were kids with our interactions that you would be different than your parents. This right here is a prime example because their parents were probably at the football game. Their parents seen this picture. Their parents are they holding them accountable? Are they explaining to them? Their parents are probably the same age as me. Went to school with people like me. And they're allowing their children to do this. Why? Because they have become their parents. Now, I don't want everybody to get pissed off because I'm talking about their parents. Because at the end of the day, you make the decisions for you, but you've seen the interaction that your parents had with my parents. You understood that racial divide during our growing years of being in elementary school, middle school, and high school. You understood that. You said you would be different. Ain't nothing changed. Ain't nothing changed. Nothing's changed. You're in the boardrooms making those decisions. You're in the boardrooms. You want our rhythm, but you don't want our blues. You'll get up. Let me digress again for a minute. Let me go here for a minute. Y'all, hold on. I went to a concert last week. On the lineup, Brownstone, Silk, Blackstreet, Keith Sweat. Outstanding concert. Amazing concert. They all sounded like they did back in the day. It wasn't moving as fast, but it sounded the same. But I digress. Let me go back. But I went to this concert, and as me, my wife, my buddy, and another friend was sitting there watching the concert, and they started looking around, and my wife taps me. Look at this. I look over, and there's like 10, watch this now, 10 white women in a group. They're on their feet and they're singing word for word every song that the artists were singing. These are songs from the 80s, well, the 90s into the 2000s. You're talking about Keith Sweat, Brownstone, you know what I'm saying, Blackstreet. But they're singing them word for word. Now, nothing against that. But when they leave there, how do they feel about them? When they leave there, do they still view them the same way as musicians? Or just some N-word? As John Chaney said, we're too polite. We're too polite. And then when we're not polite, we're angry. We're bitter. No, we're frustrated. We are, sorry, y'all. We're frustrated. I was going to say frustrated. We're frustrated. And I want to put this disclaimer out here right now. When I talk about these issues, when I bring these things up, I am not talking to white America as a whole. You know who I'm talking to. You know who I'm talking to. If you listen to this show, more than likely you're not, but you know who I'm talking to. I'm not talking to the normal, everyday person that's in the fight, the ally. I'm talking to those that are ally. Those is who I'm talking to. Those are the ones we're trying to get the message across to. But those that are allies need to be getting that message across to them as well. We can't be in this fight alone. Case in point. Case in point. Her name? Suburban Detroit Judge Kathleen Ryan. Why did I bring her up today? She was removed from her docket on August 27th. And this is how the article goes. A racist suburban Detroit judge was recorded making homophobic and anti-black remarks, and the Karen, they call her Karen, was ultimately removed from her docket because of it. Oakland County probate judge Kathleen Ryan had her phone conversations secretly recorded by the court's administrator, who was deeply disturbed by her comments. Oakland County probate court administrator Edward Hutton explained to the news channel. The reason he wanted to expose Ryan, I just want to make it right. I haven't filed a lawsuit. I'm not looking for a payday, he stated. Hutton also hopes his actions will help the court keep the court intact. I want to keep my job and do it in peace. And I want the people in Oakland County to come to court to get a fair shake, to have their day in court, to have an unbiased trier of fact. There are a total of 6 recordings. 6 recordings. On one, Ryan made an anti-gay remark about Oakland County Executive David Coulter, who is gay and the county's highest elected official. She can be heard telling him to put that in your effing ass and stuff it, according to Detroit Free Press. Ryan also said that Coulter was more concerned about the effing AIDS vaccinations. She also disparaged black people from the United States by saying, if you're an American black person, then you're a effing lazy piece of boo-boo. Ryan didn't stop there. Like I said before, I was not racist before. I am now, she stated. I really effing am now. I can honestly say that, okay, I'm not systemically racist. I'm a new racist. Let me read that again. I am not systemically racist. I'm a new racist. Ryan has been a judge in Oakland County since 2010 and ran unopposed in 2022. She was removed from her docket on August 27 for unspecified misconduct. In Michigan, it is legal to record phone calls if one party consents. This is a judge that's been on the bench since 2010. She ran unopposed in 2022. She's been on the bench 14 years. And these are her views. I am not systemically racist. I'm a new racist. Let that marinate. A new racist. Out of her mouth. A judge who's sworn to defend the law, uphold the law, no matter who comes in front of her, no matter what you look like, no matter what you believe, so it's supposed to be by the cases. New racist is what she called herself. A new racist. Not just a racist, not a system, a new racist. Let me get some of these comments. John Chaney, if our white friends don't respect us speaking up for ourselves, they are not friends. You hit it on the head. Lin Sue, you got that right, John. Yes, sir. Deborah Harris, how many more are new racists? Yes, ma'am. How many? How many? See, these are conversations we don't want to have. How many more are new racists? This is a judge in suburban Detroit. And it took, watch this now, it took for someone to record her conversations for this to come to light. It only takes one person to expose these type things, but most people will not do it because they're worried about the consequences rather than the good parts that will come from it. John Chaney, she's not the only one. We know it. We know it. But since we're on this, let's go one more time. Let me give you one more. Oh, and I don't know why y'all I don't know why y'all still support this stuff, but I'm just gonna put it out there. The Black National Anthem at NFL games sparks outrage. I talked about this last year. I talked about this at the Super Bowl. We're going to continue to talk about this because why? Because we as consumers still tend to think that we can support the NFL because now that they're singing the quote unquote Black National Anthem at NFL games, people are in uproar. We only have one national anthem. Why are they playing that national anthem? But here's the thing. We are the only ones, African Americans, blacks are the only ones who identified Lift Every Voice as the Black National Anthem. Only us. Until it became mainstream. Now that it's become mainstream, now it's being identified as the Black National Anthem across the board. Why? Because they don't want to hear it sang at sporting events. The only reason it's being identified and being even titled as the Black National Anthem. Because people are in uproar. They want to know why is this being sung at the football game. I didn't tune into the football game for politics. I tuned in to watch a football game, so on and so forth. But when you look at the football game, you look down on the field of the players that they came to see, what do they see? And most of you out there would say, they see athletes. They see African-American Black athletes, great athletes. They see an intermingling of a team, blacks, whites, whatever nationality, they're all on a team. But the majority you see are African-Americans. They don't want the Black National Anthem played or sang at sporting events. But they refuse to sing the third verse of the Star Spangled Banner ever. Why? Because of what it says. Lift Every Voice and Sing has meaning, not only to us as a people in this country, but it should have meaning to everyone in this country. And the fact that we have people out here who are in an uproar because it's being sang at a sporting event lets you know that when people say we've come a long way, we haven't come that far. We're talking about a song. We have people that are in an uproar. We're in an uproar because Snoop, Dre, and those guys performed at the Super Bowl halftime the year before Usher. That tells you everything you know. But the thing is, we still have people that support the NFL wholeheartedly. Yeah, the NFL's trying to do something. You know, they got their little the little statements on the sidelines about Black Lives Matter and the Black Power movement, anything you can think about. But is it true or is it pacifying? Is it just to make us feel comfortable that we can still watch the games because we're not going to boycott the games? Or what are we doing? And it says here, the NFL has embraced the song following the murder of George Floyd in 2020 and the period of racial unrest that followed, and has included a performance of the song at every Super Bowl since, as well as a number of other prominent games, including Thursday night's season opener. However, not everyone seems to agree that the song should be performed, as the performance sparked outrage among conservatives. It's worth noting that the Star Spangled Banner was obviously also performed before the game as well. So Lift Every Voice and Sing was not replacing it. It was simply performed in addition to. No harm, no foul, you would think. That's not how we're operating right now. That's not how we're operating. That's not how things are going. Let me put this up again. www.ness.org. Can I vote? 59 days. You got 59 days before we go to the polls. We have 59 days to make a statement in this country by how we vote, about what we're willing to put up with going forward. Now, putting or electing Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States is not going to change all the ill wills towards us by other folks. It's not going to happen. However, we have a better chance of being able to live in this country without being in survival mode on a daily basis with her in office than we do with the other candidate. This is just my view. You don't have to understand my view. You don't have to agree with my view. I'm just giving you my view. Because what I see is, if you sit back and you pay attention to everything that's being said about what they're going to put in place, who it's going to affect, and all these things, everything that Project 2025 states has no bearing on improving anything about our lives going forward. I don't care who you are. You don't have to be Black to understand that Project 2025 is not for you. People need to just get in there and read. Like you just want to pop up something on the screen about mom's going to lose her house because there's unrealized tax and all this kind of stuff. Read it for yourself. Stop going by, well, this is what they told me, or going by the commercials, because we know we've only seen these commercials because it's election season. There's 59 days left. Michelle Lynn Summerall, good morning. If the NFL keeps putting games on streaming services, they'll lose a lot of viewers. I love football, but haven't watched consistently since Colin. I'm with you. And here's where I think we also have to look at football, basketball. All these are sports. They're sports. But these sports, baseball as well, these sports are a way for us to get away from everyday life, to sit down and watch sporting events and watch them. And for people to tune in and have this vitriol, these problems with what's being sang in the beginning, or who's performing at halftime, or who the announcers are, and all these different things, you're just looking for things to minimize what you tuned in for from the beginning. When I see people post these things about this person ain't this person ain't that, or getting into the fact of, you tuned in to watch a football game, people. You tuned in to watch a basketball game. You tuned in to watch athletes do what they do. How can you enjoy watching a game when your main focus is what song was sang in the beginning in conjunction with the Star Spangled Banner, the national anthem, as they say? Come on. What you'll find out is there are people in this world who just look for something to complain about when it doesn't elevate what they want. When it doesn't elevate their thinking, their mindset, what they want out of this country, it's an issue. And I'm not just saying that for white folks. I'm saying that for Black folks as well. We find things to complain about at times, and this is everybody. I'm not just talking to my people, everybody. We find things to complain about at times because our lives aren't in a good place. So we look for anything and everything to complain about and make these things about. And before I close this out, I want to say this, since we're talking about the racism and these different things. And I didn't print it out because I thought it was ignorant and it wasn't worth talking about. But since we're on this morning, let me ride with it. So Donald Trump the other day was doing a speech. And he recognized that one of his biggest supporters, Byron Donalds, was out in the crowd. And I'm going to, paraphrase what he said, but you'll get the gist of it. He said, "Oh, Byron Donalds is here. He's a good one." Listen to what I said now. He's on a stage. And I'm going to say hundreds of people. I ain't going to say thousands of people. Well, hundreds of people at one of his campaign things. Spots Byron Donalds, who's one of his staunchest supporters on the Republican side that look like me. And he says to the crowd, he's a good one. But we're debating who this man is, not only as a man, but to become president of the United States again. Let me tell you something about me. First of all, you're going to address me by who I am, not what you think about me. You're not going to address me as a good one in comparison to who? In comparison to what? Exactly, Deborah Harris. What is a good one? Well, he went in a little deeper, and I wish I had it in front of me now, but he went in to say something important. He's a good one. And basically, he said something to the effect that he's not like the rest and all these things, only because he's supporting him. But as I mentioned last week, you had that one guy who's a big Trump supporter that was in the room, and they basically threw his ass out. So we're in this mode of what will you accept? And it's not always what they call you, it's what you receive for them calling you. And for Byron Donalds, if he still sat there and he's still supporting him to this day after he called him a good one, Oh, and he did put in there that he's articulate. I mean, let me not leave that part out. He's articulate. John Chaney, that's why he says that to him, because he allows it. He step and fetch it. It really makes you wonder. What does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? What does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? Not only his soul, but his identity and how he's addressed by who. Because I want you to remember when Byron Donalds was in these town halls at the barbershops and these, cigars, convo cigars and cognacs, he took offense. Watch this now. He took offense to some of the brothers in these town halls that was coming at him. He took offense to them, but not to being called a good one. Let that marinate. He took offense to his brothers pushing back on his stance, but he didn't take offense to the man standing on the stage running for president, calling him a good one, and he's articulate. Tells you everything you need to know. Tells you everything you need to know. I appreciate everybody tuning in this morning. Thank y'all for tuning in. I know we're a little over this morning, but these are things that we need to get out there. Also, I'll be gone for the next 2 weeks. I'll be coming in and out, but I'll be gone for the next 2 weeks. No show next week. I got a vacation I got to go on. So it's that time. I need to take a break. So 2 weeks I'll be gone. I appreciate y'all for hanging with me. When we come back after the break, I'm taking anniversary show. We're going to have the anniversary show. Hopefully we can get some of the guys on that we had on our barbershop talks, our soul sessions, some of the women we can have on, just to get in here and just have some fun with the anniversary show, bring back some of the people that were on here in the beginning, doing some of the shows. So I appreciate y'all. Thanks for continuing tuning in. And look, as I said, Android and Tony Jackson, good show. Appreciate you, my brother. Deborah Harris, have a great break. Thank you. And I'm going to say this, as I said, 59 days. So by the time I come back, we're talking about 2 weeks. We'll be down about 49 days, if not less. We need to be diligent in what we're doing, how we're viewing these things, and make sure that you're getting the word out to get people out to the polls. We got to get to the polls. And if you see things that you're not sure of, Google. Get on Google, research it for yourself. Don't let people sell you these dreams that are not a reality. Do not let people sell you a dream that's not reality. We have to do better with what we do and continue to push back on these things that when they're telling lies about us, when they're telling lies about these politicians. And I'll say it this way. I'm not telling you to defend Kamala Harris or anybody out there that you don't know. But I will tell you this. Defend yourself. Don't let anybody call you a good one. Don't let anybody come in front of you with all this nonsense or whatever without pushing back. Have your facts. And you don't have to be factual. Just know what you're talking about. Understand that what they're saying is fake or it's propaganda or whatever you want to call it, but push back on this. This is where it starts. We have to push back on those lies and not be silent. I'm guilty of it. You're guilty of it. We got to push back. And you don't have to push back and be like aggressive with it, because then they'll try to say, oh, and guess what? He got all aggressive and everything. No, just spit the facts. And if you don't have the facts, ask them, where'd you get that from? Where'd you find that? Because 9 times out of 10, they can't give you a source. They can give you a talking point, but they can't give you a source. We got to get better with pushing back, not only because it's election season, but going forward. We see the things that are happening, and I'll leave you with this. And I've said this many times. I'm going to say it again. When you get your ballot in the mail with the people that are running for these positions, do your research. Otherwise, you're going to get people like this sitting on the bench, prosecuting people that she doesn't like because she's not a systemic racist. She's a new racist, from her words, not mine. She's a new racist. Those are the things we got to start paying more attention to. Have a great break. Thank you, Deborah Harris. Appreciate you tuning in. Lynn Sewell, my brother. Appreciate you, bro. Tommy Dorsey. Thank you, my brothers. You stay blessed as well. TC. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Brian Hoodie, always my brother. Thank you. Appreciate y'all. And as I always say before I sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely, keep your faith in God. God is in control. Keep your faith in God. I'll see y'all in about 2 weeks. I'll come in and out with some lives here and there, but y'all be safe, be out there, and continue to fight the fight. You may not know you're in the fight, but continue to fight the good fight. Get in some good trouble. Good trouble. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all, and I'm out. Peace.